Hello again, everyone. So today we're going to have, I don't know, we're going to have some fun with our project. We're going to put together an image gallery. So these gallery sections on web pages always, they bring people in, right? And they're certainly a lot of fun. I think so anyway. So in this lesson, you're going to love it as much as I do because we're going to put in some effects. So I want to get started without any preamble. So let's get into our HTML file. So first I'll create a new section tag and I'll give it an ID. Of course, we'll create the container first. However, this time we will use container fluid instead of the container class that we always use. Why? I heard that. Because we want all the screen sizes to be 100% of the container width. Make sense? So that means that we're going to prepare this section to be 2 rows and 4 columns. So I'll create our first row and then the first column. And here I'll want to do this and I'll use column medium 3 class. And I also add a column small 6 because I want 4 columns to appear on tablets and bigger screens. And I want 2 columns to appear on smaller screens. Cool? All right, so let's take a look at what we need to add to this column. So first we'll add an image and then we'll add an overlay. And the text that appear here will have that effect when we hover over it. All right, so in the column here, first of all, I'll create a container to cover what we're talking about. And then I'll add an image. And of course, I'll add the overlay class and create one text field. And now I'll add H4 and a p tag here. So now I'll do that again. So I'll add 3 more columns to this row. Of course, I can just copy this column, and now we can add 1 more row. All right, so it makes it easy to copy the same line. No need to waste any time there. So the photos and the articles here will change, but we can do all that later. So now when you look at it, we have 2 rows and 4 columns in this structure. Okay, so we haven't created the CSS code yet. This overlay class is not displayed properly. But now that you bring it up, let's start preparing our CSS code. All right, so here you can see gaps between the photos, and of course you don't want the gaps, so I'll enter padding left and padding right values to be 0 in our columns. Now, the most important feature we'll do here is the effect. So we want to cover this entire shade when we hover over the photo. And here we'll use the position features. Now, previously we talked about these features, and I certainly suggest that you check this out from the CSS lessons if you can't remember that clearly, because we're going to just jam right on. So since we want the shading here to cover the entire photo, we'll give the overlay class a position absolute feature. And remember, while we were preparing our column, we prepared a container for this section. So here we just use the position relative property for this container. So the overlay class will cover the container just as we want. All right, so let's give the image container properties first. I'll use the position relative property. Then I'll add the cursor. So look at that. The most important class for this place came up, IMG overlay. So I'm using position absolute, so I'll give all gaps 0 to close the entire container. I'll make the height and the width value 100%. And I'll give the background here. Now it's time to enter opacity, so transparency value 0. But when we come to the photo, I want the opacity value to be 0.5. So here I'll write the container class and put a colon and write hover. Then I'll write the name of the overlay class and the feature that we want. And yeah, that's pretty good for now. Shading happens when we look at the changes and hover over the photo. I like shading, it's cool. But we need to edit our articles here too, right? So we've already created a div for text here. Why don't we look at the name class and copy it? We can start making changes to our CSS file. So here again, I'll just give the position absolute value and I'll use white as the color. Looking at the changes, yeah, it looks pretty good now. And I would like to mention again that we have created a container for the image here. We have added everything related to image in this container. We've added the image, then we added the overlay class for shading, finally the text class, the overlay and text classes to cover the image. First, we gave the position relative property for the container. Then, we gave the position absolute to overlay and text classes. So, go over the photo, and that's what you see. Now, of course, the photos here will change, but that's going to make this lesson particularly long. So goodbye for now, and see you then.